Hi, this is my review of the Cyberpunk 2077 comic book, Your Voice. This review isn't going to contain spoilers. I'm just going to give you the basic premise of the story, and I'm going to talk about the quality of the comic book and my thoughts on the story and so forth. Um, Here is the back cover. This device is very important to the main plotline of this comic book. Let's talk about the quality. The cover is sort of like thick card. It's quite sturdy, quite glossy as well. I think it's sturdy enough, but I don't know if it was during shipping or something, but it can get a bit scratched. I do have like those not exactly like scratches, but dented lines. You cannot see them, but just a few of them. So be careful with the cover, even though it is sturdy. When it comes to the paper, it's good quality paper, semi-glossy, and I will show you some of the artwork. Let's see. Here are some of the images. I'll see if I can get that into focus. You get a good feel of Night City. They use a lot of shades of the same color, so you feel a bit like immersed, because in many of those cyberpunk style of environments, because of the city lights, as you can see, it's very glossy, very difficult to get a good focus. But because of the city lights and the nightclubs and anywhere else in which you are going into, well, you do get a certain atmosphere with the lighting and the colors. Let me show you a few more images. Let's see if I can find more that have a bit more variety. Some of them can get a bit dark, but overall I really like the use of the colors, the inks, the lines. The dialogue balloons are great as well. I'm going to stop showing you images because I think that would present some spoilers, even though you cannot read what is presented in the dialogue balloons because of the focus. You will be able to tell how the story is going to proceed because of the images. Okay, so when it comes to the artwork, I think there's a good balance of being a bit artsy or being more taking some risks when it comes to playing around with the panels and the sequence of the actions, but at the same time you never feel lost in the story. You never feel like it's too chaotic. Everything has a certain common sense to the sequence, so you will easily understand what is going on in each of the scenes. Let me show you this one. I don't think I showed you this image. As you can see, the changes of the tones of colors and the shading and the contrasts really allow you to appreciate how different scenes unfold. That is, you say, oh, this scene is going to take you to this other scene. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. So, oh, I feel like the action is proceeding quite nicely, very cinematic. And when it comes to the dialogue, I think it's expertly handled. You see how different characters talk in a certain way. You never feel like it's the same writer for all of the characters. You remember almost all of them because there are several characters here. Some of them minor, and you have some important characters, and you will remember them because of the way in which they talk, their attitudes, and such. Now let's talk about the story itself, the premise, without spoiling things. The main character is a man by the name of Todd. Todd is very average. You're pretty average guy, like average Joe. But almost by luck, or perhaps by misfortune, he ends up involved with this woman. It's a very brief encounter, and she is doing some sort of uh, shady job or dangerous um, task, a sort of odd job that could cost you your life. And she makes him an unwitting participant in that job. He basically ends up helping her. He probably, you could say, he saved her life. But she doesn't think too much of it. Maybe it's because of her line of work that she's quite used to the risks and the danger. She kind of like looks at it as if it was something quite common, like, oh yeah, you saved my hide, see you later, or see you around. But he becomes a bit infatuated. You could say that this is somewhat of a tragic love story. Now, I'm not going to say exactly where the tragedy lies to avoid spoilers, but you can look at it like that, like it's a tragic love story. So he wants to find out more about this woman. And to avoid spoilers, let's just say that he goes to the most pertinent and reliable source at his current lifestyle level. Because, like I told you, he seems pretty average. He's not like some sort of special agent or some mercenary or someone a bit more specialized, like a transporter of sorts. He's just a guy that he got a bit of a crush on this woman, and he wants to find out more about her, perhaps even help her, because he has already seen that she's in a lot of trouble most of the time. She's in a very dangerous way of living. So he obtains the information. Her name is Yishen, but everything in Cyberpunk, just like in real life, everything has a price. So in order to pay for this information, he will have to carry a certain device. Because this is a cyberpunk setting, of course, you're always going to be, many of the characters have terminals in which they can insert something, and you can see him in the cover how he's taking out a device from his neck, so his body is equipped to having that risky technology inserted there. And he's going to test this new device that allows you to take better decisions. So the title of this comic book is Your Voice. You can pretty much tell that it is related to this decision-making device. Let's say that you have a helping voice telling you what you should do in certain situations. From then on, after he makes contact with Yishen once more, he gets into this whole shady business, dangerous affair of corporate secrets, all sorts of situations, usually related to stealing something, transporting something, protecting your own life, and taking the lives of others. There's a lot of action. I really like the fight scenes, and overall, it gives you like a grand tour in just a few pages, a grand tour of the Cyberpunk role-playing game. And I'm not talking about the horrendous video game, at least the horrendous launch of the recent video game. I am talking about the tabletop role-playing game. I think it's actually a really good role-playing game. I need to experience it a bit more to actually feature it in a review. Perhaps in several months, who knows. But I can tell you that on my preliminary appreciation of the role-playing game, I can tell you that it's worth it. Cyberpunk Red is worth playing. But like I said, this comic book gives you like a lot of variety of the all sorts of situations that you can encounter, the interactions with the characters in this game world. If you really want to know what Cyberpunk is all about, this is a great comic book. And I actually talked with other people who read it as well. I even had some people that asked me if they could borrow it. They took really good care of it. I'm really happy about that, because sometimes you lend them your stuff and they don't treat them well. The books and comic books and all of that. But and they loved the story, even those that weren't into Cyberpunk, that were just a bit curious about it, and they read the story and they were like, oh, it's so such a great story. And before this review, I actually talked with a few of them and told them, can you tell me what you didn't like about the comic book, because I am thinking about making this review. And they said that they loved everything about it. So I'm going to give you my final thoughts on this comic book. I really like the evolution, the growth process of Todd, of the main character, and many other people that I have talked about. Well, there aren't too many, like 5, but the ones that I have talked about featuring this comic book, that read the comic book, they said that they really like how the main character evolves through the story. It's like he's taking baby steps towards another lifestyle, but that's a baby with pretty long legs. His steps towards the becoming a very different man compared to what he once was. Sorry, they are pretty noticeable. He's almost unrecognizable by the end of the story. When I first started to read this comic book, I thought, oh, this guy, he looks so desperate, completely fixated on this woman. He has a sort of loser attitude, like he feels like too needy, too emotional. But you can see that throughout the story, it is actually, at least on his part, I think it is true love. And he actually grows as he's pursuing this woman. He's growing so much. He accomplishes some things that you wouldn't expect from such a normal looking guy. So I really recommend this comic book. Everything is perfect. The colors, the panels, the dialogues, the story itself. There is a couple of huge plot twists by the end. They're not that mind-blowing, but when you piece everything together, and you open your heart, so to speak, to the emotions brought upon you by the story, like I said, it's a tragic love story. You really need to read it. It's not exactly what you think. Maybe you're already thinking about some things that could happen between the two characters. It's not exactly like that. And there is a sort of subtle cliffhanger. If they wanted to, they could continue this story. Or if you wanted to, if you play tabletop role-playing game, you can continue this story. Maybe not playing as Todd, but creating your own player characters, and perhaps eventually contacting Todd and moving things further according to the end of this comic book. It's a really good excuse for an adventure, or perhaps an entire campaign. So yes, overall, my highest recommendation. You should definitely read Your Voice, the Cyberpunk 2077 comic book. I think this is a great introduction to those that do not know about the cyberpunk genre. Maybe they will have to look over some things online if they don't understand why everyone has implants and such, or almost everyone. But if you haven't seen movies like Blade Runner, or the newest version of Total Recall, you know everything that there is to know about this sort of situation, this sort of genre. Well, thanks for watching this review. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.